Hello friends, Patrick here, and today I am going to be talking about the Microsoft Surface Studio! Yes, that device that is costing over 4,000 Australian dollars. And that's over. I can't really estimate how much it's going to be exactly, but looking at the Sonoma Surface Pros, it's going to be more than 4,500 at least. Could go up to 4,899. Yes, it's called the Australian tax. Unfortunately, the stuff is cheaper in America, and even if you converted dollar, to the conversion, so Australian dollar versus American dollar, we still get slugged more here. There's some sort of tax or something that's put on top, and it's about $1,000. So it's expensive, first of all, the Microsoft Studio, and I haven't seen what it's about. Click here, a link. I'm just going to put a black box with a picture. I'm not sure about the legalities of putting that video up there, but just have a look at the introduction video of the Microsoft Surface Studio. Microsoft Surface Studio. Yes, the Surface is sticking, and I suppose now it's called a Studio. Now, here's the thing. I really thought the Microsoft Surface 3 Pro was a good product. I think it was pretty good, but the ability to travel with it was, I think, quite limiting. If you had it in your lap, the flappy keyboard would just fall apart. I've got the Surface 3, and traveling wise, it's not very good with it. If you're in the car, maybe after a business meeting or something like that, and you're trying to use it, not very good. The typing experience on the 3 was terrible, which was upgraded in the Surface 4. The new type cover is so much better. So if you're buying the Surface 3 or Surface 4, go for the Surface 4. Do not bother with 3. And even the bigger version is much nicer to use, much quicker, and don't get anything with an Atom CPU in it. Yeah, I know it's cheap, and I know that it sounds pretty cool. Atom, boom. It's pretty bloody slow. It just kind of puts along as you go. Now, the thing with the Studio and how it compares to the other one, which I thought was a great sort of push forward for Microsoft, which was the Surface Book. I thought that was a very good product. It was executed well. It was fairly well usable, except obviously the battery life, if you may own one, which is upgraded in the new Surface Book, that is upgraded. But that Surface Book lacked a few things. It lacked the stylishness of it, because when you closed it, it wasn't good when you kind of closed it, and there was a big gap, little trim around it, and it was top heavy. So when you were traveling and you had it on your lap, the slightest bump would just send it over. Now that hasn't really been fixed in the Surface Studio because it is a desktop computer all in one screen with a little base. Now what is Microsoft competing with? Well, I think it's competing a little bit with the iMacs, the big iMacs, 27 inches, big standalone iMacs. I mean, that's really where it's at, because it kind of even looks like one. A bit more edgy, bit more sharp, but it does one thing that is much better and much cooler than the iMac. So before I go into a little bit of a description about it and how I see it being used, the iMac is touted as a professional's studio usability wise computer, something you'd make music, art, movies with, edit things, all sorts of things like that. That is what it's touted. Every single Apple ad has some sort of hippie making some sort of hippie movie that nobody's gonna watch, like walking down to the beach and editing it all together. I don't know. Look, I usually ignore those ads because as soon as I see it, I'm just like, oh, here we go. My feelings are gonna feel all tingly inside from all the emotion running through Apple until they get to that phone, and here it is, guys. That's the phone. Anywho, the Microsoft Studio is aimed at professionals, hence the price, but I do see it as something anybody could use as just a standalone computer. But that studio ability comes from the fact that you can use a pen on the screen, and you don't need a third-party device like one of those pads where you draw on it, and it's much more usable because when it bends down to that height where you'd have a drawing desk, I don't know if anybody's seen those architectural desks, they are actually at that angle, quite high. You would have a high chair and they would be at a weird angle, sort of about 430 degrees, I would say. You can change it, obviously. So it gives you that drawing thing, because if it's flat and you're ever drawn anything, you might notice at the top, when you bring up the photo straight, or let's say you drew a person, you're very artistic, and you bring it back up from your angle here, how you're looking at it, everything's perfect. But if you bring it up straight, the head of the person might be blown up, and at a front angle looks really weird. It looks like, ooh, like that. So having a desk like this is really good. But now, obviously, using a digital device is a bit different. You're not going to keep your hand on it as much. So I'm hoping there's going to be a bit of control where you can sort of stop the wrist, you know, putting in any effects on the screen. They have a pen, obviously it's got all sorts of touch points, sensitivity levels, whatever. Fine, it must work well, otherwise the product is going to be crap. But what's cool is that little round wheel that you put on there. How it interacts with the screen, I'm really not sure, but as you can see from the video, it was a color wheel, it could zoom in and out, and it was that second touch point on the screen where you know when sometimes you draw and you put your hand there, that is where you put your hand. And you can control other things, change colors. And that combination of this device, the pen, and the way the screen lays down for you makes this product the best thing for animators, professionals, and people who have a studio of some sorts. But video editing, maybe not so much. Maybe not really a pen and little knobby thing useful, maybe not. But drawing and animators are gonna love this because it is a Windows device, and you know, Adobe's got its suite of things on Windows and it will work. But I think the way it just falls down on the table at a good angle with that secondary use beats out the iMac. In any second or third peripheral you add to an iMac, you still got a flat screen, non-touch, that you can't get that exact movement of your pen. And that is why I think that product is aimed at animators. Now, Australia, I don't really like talking about these expensive things because who's going to be buying this? We don't have the biggest industry of animators. I know over East the Lego movie was made there, and there's a few studios out there, but it's very expensive to buy an item like this. So from my point of view, I really don't see why Microsoft is releasing this aimed at the public, because that's what it feels like from the adverts Microsoft is releasing. It feels like it's aimed at the public, and I don't think this product is for the public. I think it is very much a professional use, and a lot of studios that work with Photoshop will make good use of it, especially magazines. But then again, magazines are going out of style, and it's just an odd time for something like this. But animators and anyone who makes little animations or even 3D editing or 3D Max Studio is going to really benefit from something like this. And another point, I suppose, the device is touchscreen. If you just put it up a little bit and you want to just browse the web, flick through, move around, it's a really good experience. And I still don't understand why MacBooks or iMacs do not have a touchscreen. Apple makes some of the best touchscreen applications, and I have an Apple device here. I'm using it to record the voice here, but if it had a touchscreen, I'd use it more. I'd sit there with my hand on the side of the screen just scrolling through. I wouldn't use the touchpad because it's so much more comfortable like that than it is like this. And even with the mouse, it just feels natural to put your hand on the side of the screen and scroll up and down and control everything else with the mouse pad, which I have to say the pad on iMacs and MacBooks are really, really good. Much better than any Windows device, much better than the Surface. But with the Surface, I use the touchscreen because it's actually pretty good. I can scroll through, but again, it's a web browser, nothing more than that. I think in my opinion, maybe you can write some things, but that is what a laptop is used when you've got a good connection between the light top side where the screen is and a heavy bottom so it doesn't fall off your lap like the Surface Book does. Now guys, the Surface Studio, so many Surface things in there. Surface Pro, Surface Book, Surface Studio. This device, the Surface Studio, is too expensive for general populace. Really, way too expensive. No point, Microsoft, sorry, but who's gonna buy it? But hey, in America, it's about $3K. Somebody will probably buy it. Somebody will probably use it, and somebody will probably love it. If they made a device that was a lot cheaper, remove some hardware bits and pieces, I think a lot of people would just buy it as a nice all-in-one computer. So in conclusion, what I think Microsoft should do is have two versions of the Microsoft Surface Studio. One should be called Microsoft Studio, like it is, and be that version that it is currently, and another one should be called Microsoft Surface Home. Yes, Microsoft, you can purchase the word home from me for 3 easy payments of $4.99, and you'll get a gold star from me. Yes, if it's called the Microsoft Surface Home, have it as a nice all-in-one device at a fraction of the cost. $1,800, my friends. $1,800 would be a great cost. There is already all-in-one computers for $1,800. It's sleek. It's Microsoft. It doesn't have to fold down. But if it does, let it. If you can, let it. But can you please not make it cost $4,000 or more dollars Australian? And I mean, in American, it's $3K. That's still pretty expensive even for their currency. It's very expensive. But a smaller version, maybe even a smaller screen if you have to. Remove the specs. It would be a great all-in-one home computer that even my parents would really use. I mean, seriously, without this huge box, everyone's just using laptops at home. An all-in-one would really be nice. And I suppose a big screen would help, so don't make the screen too small. But that touchscreen would be really cool. And I have to say, there's already devices like this from MSI, a HP, but none of them have the quality that Microsoft is making at the moment. And otherwise, you're stuck with an iMac. Microsoft, come on, think of your marketplace. There is a marketplace for this device at a lesser price. Guys, thank you very much for watching. The reason I wanted to talk about it is because I was really upset about the price, but I thought the device was pretty darn good. And I'm hoping that this is just an entry into the market, and then a lower device will sort of slip by in later in the year or in the coming few months. Let's hope that happens so we can get some good all-in-one computers, because most of the time, guys, unless you're gaming, you don't need a dedicated graphics card. And also on the note, I'm just gonna put this in there. If anybody watched the Apple event, they put 103% extra gaming power. Really? On a MacBook with no dedicated graphics card? The 13-inch and the 15-inch having a dedicated graphics card of 2 gigs? What are you gonna be gaming on? What are you gonna be playing? Dota? At low specs? Really? Guys, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for watching my video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Subscribe for more content. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Microsoft Studio. And of course, I'll catch you in another video.